Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at noon starts now.
Hurricane Milton continues to turn toward Florida. The storm is expected to make landfall near Tampa as a major Category 3 hurricane late tomorrow. It will then move across the state of Florida from west to east, and take a look at the traffic impacting hundreds of communities as people try to evacuate. Residents now evacuating. This is what it's been looking like all morning long along I-75 near Orlando. You can see just a line of cars as far as the eye can see. And state officials expect that this could be the largest evacuation since 2017's Hurricane Irma.
Yeah, so many Michiganders have connections to Florida, whether it's family down there or you might have a vacation home. Shante Passmore is at Detroit Metro Airport today to check on the impact Milton is having on travelers here. Shante.
Yeah, guys, we've seen Floridians make their way to Detroit just in time to avoid Hurricane Milton's wrath. And really, time is of the essence, because when you look at this flight board, already we are seeing a cancellation from Tampa, Florida. I believe that's a Virgin Atlantic flight that was supposed to arrive at 1:24. And we've also seen some delayed arrival times coming out of the Sunshine State. And so that appears to be that people are really heeding the warnings coming from emergency officials down there. In fact, we just got done moments ago talking to people who got off a flight from Orlando, and they tell me, thankfully, that with Hurricane Helene, they were spared. But with Milton, that is a completely different forecast. So when they saw that forecast, when their family members and friends living in Michigan saw that forecast, they felt compelled to get up here. But according to flyers, ticket prices astronomically high. We're talking about some going as high as $1,200. So that's another side of the story. Look, not everyone can afford to evacuate. So some flyers told me, hey, we know some people who are choosing to stay hunkered down for that reason and for other reasons as well. And really, there's no telling how long they'll be up here in Michigan as we await to see what happens with Milton and when they do go back, what they expect to see. But just talking to the passengers, you can sense just how dire the situation is right now at this hour as we await for what will happen with Milton. Guys.
Yeah, it is definitely looking like it's going to be devastating in every way possible. All right, Shante, we appreciate it.
And the financial disparity, hadn't even really thought about that impact and why people do have to stay, because they just don't have any other way to get out. Heading south, residents in West Florida say that they are trying to prepare as best they can for Milton. Florida's governor has deployed the National Guard to help assist with debris removal that's left lining streets from Hurricane Helene just 2 weeks ago. And that could cause even more damage from Milton's forecasted winds and water. Also, major concerns, the storm surge, the heavy rain, and flash flooding.
I think that overall, we're probably as prepared as we can be. I think it's great that they're evacuating the beach. It's unfortunate for these people, and just hope that everybody is safe and we don't lose any lives.
No, I'm not nervous. I'm not scared. I'm just prepared to lose everything that I own. Prepared. It is what it is. I live in Florida.
Boy, what a perspective. Hurricane Milton is one of the top 10 strongest hurricanes ever recorded in the waters.
More than 60 Michigan Red Cross volunteers are in Florida right now. They're tackling the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Today, one of the volunteers, Harold West, gave some insight on his experience.
It's been real devastating for Florida. The devastation has just been unbelievable. And the support that we're giving them it really touches. We know that they really do need us. And it makes you feel good.
And boy, do they need everybody down there like Harold. He traveled to Florida to deliver meals to the impacted communities. The Michigan region of the Red Cross has volunteers in Florida, in Tennessee, and in North Carolina. And boy, they're going to need a lot more after this storm.
And we do want to get to Ashley to just get more perspective on this. One of the top 10 to ever be in the Atlantic Basin. I mean, there have been recorded hurricanes for a long time that have been very destructive.
Right, and the first major hurricane to hit Tampa Bay since 1950. It's been that long since we've seen one. So we are currently tracking this, and it will be catastrophic, especially with the storm surge, and I'll dive into the science of that coming up in a few minutes. In the meantime, this is where we stand with the latest advisory from the National Hurricane Center. 150-mile-per-hour sustained winds. So this is a Cat 4, likely will strengthen to a Cat 5 again in the open waters of the Gulf, but a pretty hostile environment in the Gulf, so it will likely weaken as it makes landfall in the Tampa Bay region, either as a strong Cat 3. If it doesn't weaken to that, it would be a weak Cat 4, but nonetheless, it has to be a Category 3 hurricane to be considered major, and it will be. So here's a look at the wind potential. What is so just interesting is that this is still going to have hurricane force winds on the Atlantic side as that crosses the peninsula and then back into the open waters heading into the weekend. The rainfall potential upward of 8 inches from Tampa all the way south of Jacksonville. So you can see this area that is just going to get clobbered with the rain. And that's not even taking into account the Gulf Coast that has to deal with that significant storm surge. Once again, we'll talk about that in a moment. But that rainfall potential, there's a very narrow band of excessive rainfall that'll be possible, and it's going to be the northern side of Milton that brings the really heavy flooding potential. So as we look at this could be Tampa all the way up towards Orlando. Right now, we're on either side of 60 here close to home, and we have beautiful sunshine. I mean, we are absolutely in a wonderful stretch of weather. Our hourly forecast throughout the rest of the afternoon, forecasting 67 for the afternoon high. But this is a historic hurricane that we're tracking to the south, so we're going to have more details on that and a look at the rest of our forecast in a few minutes.
All right, Ashley, thank you. This morning, firefighters rushed to the scene of this massive fire. It was at an abandoned home on Detroit's east side. It happened near Medbury and Du Bois. This was at around 8:15 this morning. And just look at how the flames stretched. They engulfed that entire house. After a short time, firefighters were able to douse the flames. Fortunately, no injuries were reported.
Over in Pontiac, police investigating a shooting that left 2 people dead. We are working to learn more about this shooting, but here's what we know happened. It happened before 9:45 near the intersection of Fittis Avenue and North Sanford Street. We're told one person was pronounced dead at the scene. The other died at the hospital. Police haven't commented on the identities of the people involved, but we will update you when we learn more.
A home invasion took a strange turn after police responded to the scene and discovered that one of the suspects had just been shot with a crossbow. Police say 2 suspects broke into this home, which was occupied by 2 residents. One of the suspects was shot with a crossbow by the resident of the home in self-defense. The suspects fled but were found by police nearby. The incident remains under investigation, but police say that this was not a random act of violence, as the suspects and victims knew each other.
Politics now. Vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance gets a chance to enjoy the Eastern Market in Detroit today. That event starts at 2 p.m. Vance expected to speak about the auto industry, the Trump-Vance campaign, and how it's made numerous stops throughout our state. Former President Trump is also slated to speak at the Detroit Economic Club on Thursday.